Hey guys, I'm in my 2009 Mini Cooper, and I think my auxiliary temperature sensor is going to read incorrectly, has been reading incorrectly. So right now it shows about 150 maybe, and what I have here is this is hooked up to a wireless transmitter to my OBD2, and that's showing 147 Fahrenheit. So they're pretty close right now, but this reads a little bit higher, 160, about 10 degrees higher. So when they're really cooler, they're really close, but as it gets warmer, they start drifting, and this one starts reading really high, and I think there's an error on that, and I'll show you where this one is taking the temperature in my engine coolant. I did a video on installing this, and we'll go run some tests to see if it is drifting a lot. So I'm going to take it a drive to get it up to over 220 F, and we'll compare the temperatures between the two. See you in a little bit. Okay, I've been driving a little bit. My analog dial here is up to 212 maybe, and my other one that's near the thermostat assembly is just below 200. So we're about 12 degrees higher on my analog. So let's drive a little bit more and get the engine temperature up a little bit higher. Okay, here's the temperature in the thermostat assembly. It says 212. So it shouldn't even be opening yet till around 220 or 221. And here is my analog one, and that reads around 230. So by the location of where this sensor is, this one should not be reading higher, but they're starting to drift further and further apart as the engine gets hotter. So let's drive it a little bit more. Okay, I don't think I can get the thermostat to open. I guess I could try to force it open by turning on the heat, but basically I'm at about 215 here. Temperature outside is only around 80 degrees, 82 degrees, and in my analog I'm reading around close to 230, so it's about 15 degrees higher. I think this one should always read a little bit lower just because of the location it is. It's closer to the radiator. So we're gonna wait for it to cool down and open up the hood and show you what I'm talking about. Okay guys, this is my inside my engine compartment, and you're going to see some stuff that's a little bit different because I did some different stuff. Like that's my secondary oil pressure sensor that I installed. It was a kit from Craven Speed along with a temperature sensor and gauge. So right behind that there's a in a thermostat assembly housing, there's the temperature sensor for the computer for the car, which I was reading in the OBD2 wireless. Then in the Craven Speed kit, the other temperature sensor is actually in the hose. Let me see if I can get a good view of it. Right down in there. So so what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull out that sensor and test it. I was telling Craven Speed they were nice enough to send me a second one, a new one for free, because I was telling them I think I had problems with this one. So let's go ahead and test the two and see if there's any drift in this one. So to be able to get that out, I'll have to remove my windshield washer reservoir. Okay, here's a better shot of it after I got my water reservoir out of the way. So actually Craven Speed gives you this adapter, and you actually you could screw in the sensor right into the hose. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect it and pull it out. Okay, I'm downstairs in my workshop. So this is the new one that Craven Feed sent me. It's a temp sender 9201. Goes with the kit, the Marshall temp sender. That's the replacement they sent me at no cost. This is the one that I pulled out. So my step is going to be I'm going to go ahead and fill this with water, put this under a hot plate, heat it up, hook up some things to monitor the resistance and the temperature of the water. So let me get all that set up and we'll get going. Okay, here's my setup. I got this one reading the resistance of the old temp sensor, which is about 1.2 kilo ohms. This is the temperature of the water and ambient. And this is the new temp sensor, which is reading 1.26. So they're pretty close together in the beginning. So have it sitting on a hot plate with water, and it's submerged in the tip of it is submerged in the water. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it up and let's see what happens. Okay, we're about at a little over 90 degrees on the water, and you can already see there's a variance in the resistance. This is the new one, which is about 115, and the old one's at 110. So this one's by the look at things, as it heats up, the resistance drops in the on the tip. So we'll just keep going and check back in a little bit. Okay, checking back in, we're over around 100 degrees F, and on the old one we're at less than 1 kilo ohm, 0.96, and here we're still about a little over 1. So now we're starting to see a little bit bigger difference between the two. So let's keep watching it. Okay, we're over 110 degrees. I did move the thermocouple where it's taking the temperature of the water up off the bottom, because it was actually hotter at the bottom than at the top. So I'm reading around 112, closer to where the same elevation as the temperature of the sensors. So about 113. I got 0.71 on the new and 0.65 on the old. So let's keep going up. Okay, we're up to 180 degrees F on the water, and on the new one we're about 215, 214, and here 197 ohms. So I'm gonna go ahead stop here and go ahead, let's see what the graph looks like. Okay, I'm done recording all my points on the temperature, and this is what it looks like graph. So they kind of track pretty close, but I'll show you what the problem is. So you got the blue line, which is the old sensor, and the red line, which is the new sensors, and that the new sensor tracks a little bit higher in resistance throughout the whole thing, all the way up to the upper temperatures here, even at the 190. So at the lower temperatures, you get a little more spread. But the problem is the way this thing works is, as the temperature goes up, your resistance goes down, and this kind of gets to a flat line. And when it goes to a flat line here, the flatter it gets, the higher the error you're going to get between the two, even though they're very close together in appearance. Whereas the more vertical the line, where at the lower temperatures, even though they look like they're bigger spread, you're not going to see that error as much. And maybe I could illustrate that better on a piece of paper. Okay, I'm going to see if I can illustrate this better by drawing it. So basically, if you have the two lines, and if they're very vertical like that, so, and we had temp on the bottom and resistance on the side here. So basically, for this specific temp, you're going to get these two resistance, R1, R2, for that specific one. So even that, the distance between these two temps here, this distance, you're going to get an error in temp, even though you have a large resistance difference. See how larger this is, and you go get some kind of small temp difference. But during where it gets really high temp and the line looks very flat, so this is your higher end temp. So let's say you're at a high temp here. See if I do this right. So even at this temp, and if I draw a horizontal line till it intercepts this one, what you see is, even for this small delta R that you have here, you're going to have a big delta T. And that's just because of the flatness of the curves that you're comparing there between the X and Y axis. So the way this was designed was, as the T gets higher, the R gets lower, and that's why you end up getting that error for the flat end of the high temp. What they should have done was actually used a sensor that went the other way. So if they had a sensor that went this way, where R increased as the temp went up, even though your resistance, you might have a big resistance change, your error in temp would be small. And they should have done it this way rather than do it this way. And that's why even the slightest little shift in the graph, you're going to end up with a big error on the higher temp. So even the new one is, I'm gonna put the new one in, and let's see how it works. Okay, I have it back in. By the way, the size of that for mine, for that one was a 14 millimeter. To put it back in, put some Teflon tape on it. Again, made the connections, some shrink wrap tubing on it so nothing shorts out. I think I misspoken. This is actually your coolant overfill or reservoir that you had to remove. There's your washer fluid. Don't need to remove that. So that's what you had to remove. So I'll go ahead and put that back. And you need a pan underneath, because when you take that out, if you do it, you'll get a whole bunch of antifreeze on the ground. So I have a pan down there. So I'm going to have to fill it back up with some antifreeze and distilled water, and then take it out and see if we get it a little bit closer in the agreement and temperature. Okay, I filled up the reservoir, and then I put a vacuum on it using that. I show that how to use that in another video. You can use the bleed screw, which is located down in there. I never had any luck with that getting all the air out, so I put vacuum on it instead. And let's go and see what the numbers are like when I take it out for a drive. The new temp sensor in. Okay, I just started up the car again, and interesting enough, I'm reading low on the analog. I got 147, 145 on the coolant, on the computer, and here I have 130. So let's take it out for a drive and get the temperature up higher, see if it's closer in comparison at the higher temperatures. Yeah, Okay, I drove about the same distance as before. I'm at 197.6 on the computer, and here still reading high at almost 210. So we're about 10 degrees, about 10 degrees higher. Yeah. Let's drive a little bit more and let's see what the final result is. If we get up to 220 around. Well, it still looks like it's reading higher than it should be. I'm at 210 on the engine computer, and here I've just below 230. So on the high end, I'm about 20 degrees higher. I'm gonna look. This is a Marshall gauge. I'm gonna see if you can calibrate that to tweak it a little bit, or not. Then I'll probably put a potentiometer, a variable potentiometer resistance somewhere along the lines. That way I could tweak the resistance to get it closer and closer to what the engine is seeing. So that's my video for today, and if I do another video on how to get this to read right, I'll go ahead and do that. So thanks for watching. Good luck on yours.